So I can't remember if I've used this introduction before. If I have, my apologies. But to quote the great Dinah Washington, what a difference a day makes. And I mentioned that in relation to the San Francisco Giants' Casey Schmitt. On Thursday, Schmitt committed a game-altering error in the bottom of the ninth inning with the Giants leading the Colorado Rockies 7-5. There's a grounder hit to him, and if he fields it cleanly, throws to second, potentially kicks off a game-ending double play. The Giants would go on to sweep the Colorado Rockies, and then they would subsequently enter Los Angeles, tied with the Dodgers for the best record in the NL West. What instead happens is Schmitt doesn't field it cleanly. He bobbles it, isn't able to get any outs, and then two batters later, Orlando Arcia hits a walk-off two-run single to left field, and instead of sweeping the Rockies, again, a team that is on pace for the most losses in the history of Major League Baseball, they have to settle for 2 of 3, and instead of entering the series against the Los Angeles Dodgers with the same record, the Giants enter the series trailing by a game. Now, fast forward to the top of the third inning, the bases are loaded for Schmitt. Well, even go back a little further. Let's go back to when Wilmer Flores is at the plate. It's 2 outs in the top of the third inning. The game's tied at 1 apiece, and to Schmitt, what the Dodgers, well, not the Dodgers as a whole, what Yoshinobu Yamamoto effectively does is intentionally walks Wilmer Flores to get to Schmitt. And when Schmitt was asked about this after the game, whether he took this personally, Schmitt said something to the effect of, I mean, who wouldn't? So the bases are loaded. It's a 1-run game in the top of the third inning. The stakes are very clear. If the Giants win this game, they would tie the Dodgers atop the National League West. And what Schmitt effectively does is deliver a completely crowd silencing swing of the bat, a 426-foot, I want to say 108-mile-per-hour homer that goes halfway up the left field bleachers. It was gone the moment it left his bat, and Schmitt knew this all too well. I didn't ask him after the game, but I would imagine it was one of those swings where you don't even feel it jump off the bat. And he looked to the left field bleachers for maybe half a second, and instead of standing there and admiring one of the biggest swings of his personal season, instead what he does is he quickly turns towards the first base dugout, of course that being the Giants dugout, kind of takes a couple steps, kind of struts up the first base line before kind of flipping, not really flipping his bat, more of a discard. He discards the bat, and then he begins the ceremonial jog around the bases. The Giants take a 5-1 lead, a lead that they would never lose. And when Andrew Knizner in particular, Andrew Knizner also hit a solo homer tonight along with Willy Adames, and I'll get to Adames in a second, but when Knizner was talking about the Schmitt Grand Slam, he said he was in the dugout on the iPad, kind of looking forward to the next inning, or he was either reviewing some film. I can't remember exactly what he said, but Schmitt has the crack of the bat. He looks up, and all of a sudden, it's just vibes all around, and he referred to the kind of, however you want to categorize it, the little celebration, the little pimp job, so to say, as subtle, but swaggy. And again, going from yesterday with the air to today with the go-ahead grand slam, again, a very obvious bit of redemption for Schmitt. Now transitioning to Adames. Before Schmidt's grand slam in the top of the third inning, Adames got the scoring started in the top of the first inning in his very first at-bat as part of the Giants-Dodgers rivalry with a towering home run, a towering solo homer to right field, his 8th homer on the season, his 3rd homer in the last 4 games. And we've kind of talked about this in relation to Matt Chapman, especially given how important Chapman's bat was to this lineup. It is imperative that they get any type of offense up and down this lineup. And Adames, again, we've talked about this a lot. He's the guy that signed the $182 million contract fresh off the contract year. Last year, he's a guy that has shown in the past that he can be an impact bat, and with the Giants missing one of their impact bats right now, Adames has stepped up in these last couple days, beginning with the 2 home runs that he hit at Coors Field against the Rockies, and then carrying it into, again, his first taste of the Giants-Dodgers rivalry here in LA. And with the homers from Adames and Knizner and Schmitt, it was one of those games where you can almost kind of forget what Logan Webb was doing on the mound just because he turned in another Typical Logan Webb starts, 7 innings, 2 runs. But the one differentiating factor between this start and a lot of his other starts was he leaned heavily into the cutter. He leaned into the cutter like he never has before. He threw 29 of them today. It was the most he's thrown in a single start in his major league career by far, the previous high being 20. And the Dodgers weren't able to do anything with the cutter. They fouled off 10 of them, and the 4 that they did manage to put in play went for outs. I can't remember exactly what they went for, specifically fly out, pop out, whatever that may be. But they put it in play 4 times. They weren't able to do anything with it. So Webb entered the day with a 2.58 ERA. He exits the day also with a 2.58 ERA. And I know as we start getting closer to the All-Star game, closer to the Midsummer Classic, I know there's going to be that conversation of who might start the All-Star game, whether it be Logan Webb or Paul Skeens. And Paul Skeens put together another phenomenal start, and he very well might start in the All-Star game for a second consecutive year. And you never know. Maybe Skeens struggles a little bit going into the All-Star break. Maybe Logan Webb continues doing what he's doing, and he might become the first Giant to start an All-Star game since Johnny Cueto. That's how good Logan Webb has been this season. And it was also of note that he pitched this well on the road. He has kind of struggled a little bit on the road this season, has pitched very well at home, but it becomes one of his best starts on the road this season. And to kind of circle back, before the game, we had an opportunity to talk with Matt Chapman. He visited with Dr. Stephen Shin in Los Angeles earlier today, and Shin told Chapman that he was pleased with the progress that he was making, that Chapman, given the injury that he sustained, wasn't in as much pain relative to other cases that he's worked on. And while the Giants haven't provided a formal timetable on when Chapman might be able to return to play, Chapman kind of estimated that return when he was talking about Casey Schmitt, and said that Schmidt's going to have to fill in for him for effectively the next 3 or 4 weeks. And manager Bob Melvin said that until he begins baseball activities, the Giants aren't going to be able to have or formulate any type of formal timetable. So it's kind of in wait-and-see territory. Chapman is going to be wearing a splint on his left hand, or his right hand rather, for the next week. But assuming all goes well, he should have that splint off next week and then begin rehab activities. And he was doing a couple activities on the field prior to today, shagging fly balls, pantomiming swings with the glove on his hand, things of that nature. But it'll be a while before he starts doing the more advanced things, given where he's at as far as his rehab, like gripping a bat or throwing a ball, 2 of the things that you have to do pretty often as a baseball player. And one more additional update from today is that Justin Verlander is going to throw a bullpen tomorrow. Again, nothing official as far as his timetable to return, but it is possible that after throwing this bullpen tomorrow, he would be eligible. Well, he is eligible to return, but it is possible that he makes a return to the rotation, and Kyle Harrison, who is scheduled to start the Sunday night game at 4 p.m., of course, on Sunday, makes his final start as a member of the rotation before going back to the bullpen.